Welcome to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Serenitas. And as always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Adam Kirkshin is on assignment tonight. Kevin, how are you this evening?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good. It's been a while. Of course, Monday we didn't end up doing a show because of the holiday week. The following Monday, we didn't do a show because I ended up with a little bit of a health issue, so I'm battling with that and dealing with that. But slowly but surely getting back to my loud, obnoxious, brash, arrogant ways. So Stone's excited to be talking to me again. As you can see by the look on his face, he's extremely excited. I think Kevin is more excited about the fact that we're finally going to be done having to cover games
Correct.
in the next 2 weeks. So I think that's where his relief comes from more than anything else. I do want to remind you that if you are in the market to sell your current home and purchase your next home or purchase your first home, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to help guide you through the real estate process. You need experience when it comes to this process, whether it be a loan officer, an agent, or a lawyer. Herb has the connections. He has the know-how to help make this process easy for you. Again, give him a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Kevin, you and I, of course, spent the day up at Gillette Stadium today. Patriots making final preparations for their final two home games, but their next home game, which will be on Saturday. Of course, the Patriots got flexed into the Saturday 1 o'clock kickoff spot last week. They're going to take on the visiting Los Angeles Chargers. This is the second straight year that the Chargers are visiting Gillette Stadium. Of course, Patriots lost in an ugly game last year, 6-0 to the Chargers. Much different team. This is a Chargers team that is in playoff contention, and there's a lot at stake in this game on Saturday. If they win, they pretty much clinch a playoff spot, especially if a couple of other games end up going their way. For the Patriots, you're really, at this point, you're playing out the string. The hope is that somehow you find a way to win these next two in a row and build some momentum into going into next season. It's easier said than done. Chargers are a potential playoff team. Bills are in the playoffs. They may be resting their starters. More on that next week. But Gerard Mayo, the coordinators, the defensive assistants, and some of the players met with the media today. And I just wanted to start with Mayo and get your thoughts on what he had to say as the team is preparing for a Saturday game against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just they haven't quit, right? Like you can feel it around the building and in the locker room and all that. They're still showing up. They're working hard. There's an easy way, especially this week with the holiday. Guys can easily check out, and they haven't yet. So that's been good to see. After last week, and I know you wrote this, we've talked about this. I haven't thought Mayo's going anywhere for a while now. I just think 1 year it's not enough for the Crafts, really, to sort of admit failure. You can't do it after a year. There's also the sense of, having stability and not giving Drake May another head coach or another coordinator in 2 years. So I don't think anybody's losing their job. DeMarcus Covington we can talk about, but I don't even think he's going to lose his job at this point. So if nothing else, to what you said earlier, just show up these next 2 weeks, like make it competitive. Ironically enough, it's going to be the same weather this weekend that you got for the Chargers last year. And that game was 6-0, if I remember right. So who knows? Maybe you get them in sort of a raw, miserable day. Their offense doesn't click very well. And, you have a game like you had in Buffalo. But nothing really stood out from Mayo today. At least I didn't think so. I know you might have thought differently, but it's been status quo with him for a while now. I definitely think someone's talked to him about the way he approaches his press conferences. You could tell post game on Sunday, and I thought you could tell today as well. But other than that, nothing really different out of him. I didn't think so. It's to his credit, he's been the same guy really all season long, and that's probably the more impressive thing about him, considering all the chatter that's gone on around his job. So Has he done a great job? No, but he stayed consistent enough where the guys are still responding, and I think that's important.
Yeah, as far as what he said today, I thought one of the comments that stuck out to me that he made was he was asked about the players defending him as a coach, and that they've said that they've seen some growth from him. And I thought his response was pretty telling. He said, "Look, I understand the question. It's a great question. That's more of an after the season type of reflection point for me personally. I appreciate the players and wanting to go out there and play hard every single day. I know the record sometimes is hard. When your record is like this, to go out there and play on a down-to-down basis, the guys have been doing that." The part of that answer that stuck with me was that it's more of an after-the-season type of reflection for him, maybe. But I think for the media, for the fans, I think his growth as a coach has been a topic of conversation for a while now.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think it's going to continue to be a topic of conversation, and rightfully so, because it's hard to say if we've seen any growth, to be honest with you.
I was going to say he
Have
has.
we?
No, he hasn't.
Right. So that's part of the reason why I think at various points this season, his job status has been in question for next season and beyond, if you will, because I think there are a lot of people that are looking at this objectively and saying, okay, has he grown as a coach? Has he developed as a coach? What are the signs that show that he's grown and developed? I'm not sure we're seeing that. I mean, this is a team that, for the most part, has been losing on a week-to-week basis. Their most impressive win this season was the 19-3 win over the Bears, which, looking back on it now, the Bears suck. They've been terrible. Of course, they're playing tonight. But I think that that's a fair question. And to your point that he's been spoken to about how he deals with the media and how he answers questions, you can definitely tell, especially the last couple of weeks, he's been much shorter with his responses. His answers have been much shorter. So for me, when I look at this, I don't think it's fair to say you can reflect on it after the season. I think your job performance, though, and this is life as a coach in the NFL, I think it's going to be questioned on a week-to-week basis. And I think the fact that he didn't at least come out and say, hey, I get it, I understand it, I appreciate the players having my back, I know that that's part of the deal, that I'm going to be evaluated on a week-to-week basis. It is what it is. I'm going to come in every day, do my job, blah, 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 give some standard answer, move on. But to say that he's going to reflect on his performance after the season, I don't buy it. I don't care what the level is, NFL, college, high school. I've been a head coach, okay? It eats at you when the team's not performing well, and it eats at you on a week-to-week basis. It really bothers you. And so, and I know that firsthand. I went through a 1-10 season, so I get it. It eats at you. So this idea that, well, I'm not going to really reflect on that right now. I'm going to wait until after the season. I don't like that. I don't like that. I think that there should be a little bit more transparency in that. No, I think about it, because I do think, despite some of his wonky answers, he has tried to be transparent. I think he probably could have been a little bit more transparent here.
So it's funny, as you were saying this, it sort of hit me. Um, it's been the problem all year with him. So you go back, I want to say about 3 weeks, he talked about him and the Crafts debriefing after every game. So clearly he is reflecting. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So it's funny. It's sort of just, it didn't hit me when we were sitting there today, but that makes sense now. It's more word salad from him, basically. So you're right in that regard. He probably, I don't buy it either. But on the other hand, he's tried to answer questions maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks, like Belichick. That's a Belichickian answer. So again, I think it goes back to the coaching that he's getting from probably Stacey James, I have to assume, at press conferences or after press conferences. But that's funny. I hadn't really thought of that until you just brought it up. It's completely contradictory to what he's been saying in terms of him and the Crafts going over after every game, going over his performance. So that's interesting. Look, again, I don't think he's gone. No matter what
Yeah, no,
happens,
I don't either. I genuinely think he saved his job last week. I
agree.
do.
And that speaks to the players too.
I think that report by Rappaport that came out, I think that the Crafts wanted that to get out because they wanted the fan base to think, look, he's our guy, but if it doesn't end well, we will entertain making a change. They're not going to make a change. They were never going to make a change. And quite frankly, I know Patriot fans don't want to hear this, Kevin. I wouldn't make a change right now. I think you have to give him at least another year. I know that to some people that might be a bitter pill to swallow because it's going to be another year of Drake May on his rookie contract, but it is what it is. I think that this season was all about the development of Mayo as a coach, the development of May as a quarterback. It was a bridge year. It's more about what they do this offseason and beyond. I think, again, if you fire him after 1 year, it does beg the question, did you actually give him a fair shake? I think the answer to that question is no. That's why I think ultimately they don't move on.
And not only that, I've said this for however many weeks ago we did our last show. I've probably said it all year. If you're the Crafts and you say he was my guy 5 years ago and you fire him after a season,
Right.
What are we doing? So if you don't want to be known as a dysfunctional franchise, that's how you become.
Which you will become one if you keep recycling coaches like this.
Correct. And I think the same can be said for Alex Van Pelt as well. As annoyed as people are, Drake May has gotten better under his watch. So I hate the idea of giving Drake a second coordinator or a second head coach in 2 years. Again, you want to talk about DeMarcus Covington? I got no problem. As good as he's been to us, I think you can make a move there. And defensively, those guys in that room, you have enough veterans there where they can kind of, pick up the pieces and be just fine, especially if Hightower's still on staff. And hell, your head coach is supposed to be, a great defensive guy. So, excuse me, I think that's a move you have to look at. And then you mentioned the offseason. Elliot Wolf, I would mind seeing someone else making decisions, but it speaks to the dysfunction again. You need to have a system in place now, and everybody needs to know that you're all on the same page. Like, I give Drake May credit for coming out and saying what he said the last few weeks as a leader. It's now on the guys above him to support that team. So I think Elliot Wolf and Covington are the two you can look at and question in the offseason, but I don't think Mayo and Van Pelt are going anywhere, and nor should they.
I don't think anybody should go anywhere. I think you bring up a good point about being a dysfunctional organization. You start making head coaching changes, front office changes, coordinator changes, and that becomes routine. You're going to become a dysfunctional organization. And I hate to burst people's bubble. They were becoming a dysfunctional organization under Belichick. I know that's hard to believe because in St. William we trust, but they were. They were becoming a dysfunctional organization. Look at the constant turnaround in offensive coordinator. McDaniels leaves, goes to Vegas. Mac Jones, Rookie of the Year candidate, throws 23 touchdown passes a rookie. Joe Judge debacle. Then on top of that, you have the Bill O'Brien issue last year where then you replace those guys with O'Brien. It didn't work. Mac Jones, who in retrospect wasn't that good to begin with, but all of a sudden now you ruin Mac Jones. You have constant coordinator turnover. The offense starts to suffer, and you're pathetic. You're bottom third in the league in all offensive categories. So I think, for me, I don't want to see any changes, even on defense. I don't think you fire DeMarcus Covington after 1 year. I think it's more about next year and where they're at and how things are going and what needs to be done to get this thing on the right track. But to say that we're going to make, coordinator changes or front office changes after 1 year, then I think what that says is that they never believed in this plan they had a year ago, and they're already abandoning ship. And I just don't think they can do it. And remember what he said in January at Jerod Mayo's introductory press conference, that he's always leaned on his gut instinct when making important decisions like this, and that his gut instinct, and this, of course, being Robert Kraft, and that his gut instinct told him that Jerod Mayo was the right guy to take over the team and take over for Bill Belichick. Well, he's a billionaire. If he's used his gut instinct to make billions of dollars, and all of a sudden his gut instinct fails him on Jerod Mayo, again, that's a really bad look for him and the organization. I don't think the Crafts want that from a PR standpoint. I have no doubts that I think Jerod Mayo gets another year, and I don't anticipate any changes. Same thing with the front office. You might have somebody leave after the draft, but beyond that, I don't expect major changes. Ken Matthias checks in. Thanks for checking in as always, Ken. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, gents. Same to you, man. Glad to see the show back. I wanted to ask, what are the chances What chances are you giving New England to win one of the 2 remaining games at home? Thanks for checking in, Ken. Appreciate you as always, man. I pretty good chance, and the reason I say that is the Chargers aren't world beaters, and one thing with the Patriots is if the Patriots come out and play like they did last week, they can win this week. And one has to assume in the finale that Buffalo's probably going to sit some starters, if not most starters. If that happens, I think the Patriots have a shot at winning that game too. So I'd give their chances of winning these last 2 games. I think it's a 50-50 shot. I think that they win at least one of the 2, and I wouldn't be shocked if they won both.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that the last game next week, assuming Buffalo is sitting guys, is, I don't want to say a lock, but that's your best bet.
I think they went toe-to-toe with Buffalo last week with their starters playing. They always play Buffalo tough. Yeah. They beat him here last year. So,
no, I agree. I do think this weekend, I think you need weather to play a factor. But having said that, this offense is getting more confident. Like, I know you still need offensive line help, and this receiving core desperately needs an addition. But you listen to Drake and you listen to guys talk and you watch the Buffalo game, you can see what they want to become, or at least it feels that way. So I think they're playing with confidence that they probably haven't had most of the season. It sucks that it's coming now in, the start of 2025, but I think the offense is feeling fairly good about themselves. So I think it's competitive this weekend. I do think LA still wins the game, but I'd be stunned is a strong word. I'd be very surprised if they don't beat Buffalo at home on that last day of the year.
Well, right. Again, I think a lot of that will depend on what Buffalo does. If Buffalo decides to sit their starters and give them the extra week ahead of the playoffs, then yeah, I think they have a pretty good shot. If it ends up being Mitch Trubisky, absolutely. And look, I know a lot of Patriot fans are going to look at this and say they have the 2nd pick in the draft as of right now. I think 3 and 14 is looking pretty good. They might want to hold on to that. Look, here's the thing. The one thing I will caution people with is you do not want to develop a losing culture with this organization. This is their 3rd straight losing season. If you lose these last 2 and you finish 3 and 14, that's 3 straight losing seasons. Okay. Now the losing has seeped into the soil. Now you're a losing franchise. You're no longer the Belichick Brady Patriots. You haven't been that in a long time anyway. But my point is, you don't want to develop a losing culture here where losing becomes acceptable. Okay. I know draft position is important, especially for a team that has as many needs as they do. And I know that there is a big difference, especially because I do genuinely think they're going to shop that 1st round pick. I do think there's a big difference between having the 2nd pick, let's say, and the 6th pick. But at the end of the day, winning matters. And if they won these last 2 games, I think that would be really important for them. I think that would be big-time momentum going into the offseason and going into next season. So for me, I don't see it as a negative if they win these last 2 games. I think it's a positive. I think it's important because, again, you don't want to become a loser franchise where losing is accepted, where losing is the norm. You're entering that territory now. So it's important that they get this thing back on track because if you were to have a 4th straight losing season next season, now it's going to take a while to get this ship righted. So, you know what? I'm all in on them winning these last 2. If they could find a way to win these last 2 and finish 5 and 12, I think that gives them a lot of momentum going into the offseason. You're still going to have a top 10 pick. You still have a pick that you can shop and sell. Yeah, it may not be the 2nd pick in the draft, but you still have a pick that might be attractive and people might want. So for me, yeah, man, I'm all in on them winning these last 2. I'd love to see it happen. Do I think it will? No. Do I see a split possibly? Yes.
And not only that, you listen to Drake May the last 2 post games, and he's getting pissed at losing. So, you want him to have that. He's already cemented himself as a leader on this team, which is impressive in itself. But we've talked about this for weeks now. The better he plays down the stretch, the more enticing free agents are going to be. More enticed.
They're going to want to be
here. To come here. Yep. So you need him. You need them to win games. Or at least make it look good. these last 2 weeks, especially Saturday. You're the only game in town at 1 o'clock on Saturday. If people want to watch NFL football, they have to watch the Patriots on Saturday. So that's a huge spot for free agents or upcoming free agents to be like, oh, you know what? It's not that bad. It could be a lot worse there. I want to go play with Drake. So I'm with you. The more positivity this team can put forth these next 2 weeks, mostly for free agency, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly because I think that free agency is going to be a big part of this turnaround. And I think free agency is going to be a big part of their plan. They're going to have the most cap space going into the offseason in the league. They're going to have a lot of money to spend. These last 2 games are important, not only to build momentum going into next season, but to your point, you want to look like a more attractive destination. Free agents are going to want to have to come here. Drake May is going to be your biggest draw. It's no offense to Mayo, no offense to this staff. It's not going to be them. It's not even going to be ownership. It's going to be Drake May. Drake May is your most important recruiting tool in free agency. Guys are going to have to want to come here and play with him. And I think it's important that if you finish strong and he looks good, I think that helps your cause in free agency. Now, I still think the Patriots are probably going to have to pay 25 to 50 cents over $1 on a free agent. They're going to have to overpay guys to get him here. I mean, let's be honest here. The Patriots haven't been an attractive free agent destination in a while. And when they were, it was because of Belichick and Brady and nothing else. It isn't New England. I'm sorry, but free agents aren't coming here so that they can eat clam cakes in Rhode Island in the summer and get in the fall foliage in the fall, folks. I hate to tell you. The reality is the weather sucks up here most of the year. The taxes are high. It's not an attractive place for free agents. It's just not. So you're going to have to overpay to get him here. And I think one of your key selling points is going to have to be Drake May.
And there's one other thing, too, and it's sort of down the road, but this day and age, you sort of have to keep it in the back of your head. If they keep losing and Drake May's rookie contract expires, what if he doesn't want to be here anymore? You can't have this keep going. And look, I know it's a long way off and they don't have to worry about that for a while. But again, if he doesn't see progress or know that there's support there to eventually make this franchise what it was, he could easily say, screw this, I'm out of here in 4 years. And again, I know it's a long way off, but it's something in today's day and age you still have to be cognizant of at some point.
All right, with all that being said, what do they have to do to win Saturday?
Time of possession, in my opinion. Keep that off, or keep Justin Herbert off the field. But again, I'll go back to the weather. If it's a cold rain, you know this better than anybody, it's hard to throw. Like, they're better off having it snow if that's going to be the case. So I'd like to think weather could play a factor to help them stay in it. But the offense needs to do what it did last game. Drake May cannot turn the ball over. That's the biggest thing, of course. But time of possession, keep the LA offense off the field. Let Justin Herbert get cold on that sideline. I know it's going to be like in the 40s. It's not going to be
44 and rain.
Yeah, it's not going to be terrible, but
60% chance of rain.
Yeah, but standing around December,
80% chance of rain at the Pinstripe Bowl, which is where you're going to be.
And
45 degrees.
And an outdoor press box. Don't remind me. But no, I think ultimately.
Wait a minute. Did you just say in an outdoor press box?
It's an outdoor press box at Yankee Stadium. So no windows, no nothing. It's gonna be miserable. But no, on Saturday, look, you keep that offense off the field. You keep Justin Herbert cold on the sidelines. You run the ball with Stevenson. I know you've been a big proponent of Antonio Gibson for weeks now. I'd love to see him get more chances this week, both run game and pass game. The rookie wide receivers, I have no idea what to expect at this point, but ultimately, you hope you take another step forward with Drake May. You've got to see the turnovers, become minimalized at best. And keep them off the field and hold on to the ball. It's cliche and simple, but it's the only way this team's going to win now.
Just so that you're aware, and I'm a big fan of this forecast. 44 on Saturday, 60% chance of rain. 53 on Sunday as of right now, 60% chance of rain. 54 on Monday, 70% chance of rain. Bring it on. Melt this snow. Get rid of this shit. It's Mother Nature's diarrhea. I hate snow. Get it out of here. And give me some of that warm weather. I'm all in on that. I mean, I hate the cold. I hate the snow. I'm all in. By the way, next weekend, it's looking like a January weekend, sunny but cold. So if you're an LA Charger or an LA Charger fan who, I don't know why you would do this, but if you got tickets to come out here and spend the weekend in Boston, it's not bad weather. I suppose it could be worse.
Speaking
You
of that,
are what's that?
sorry, just speaking of that real quick, what do you think the crowd is like the next 2 weeks? I think
Well, I
this
mean,
weekend's
look, if
wild.
that forecast holds true, I mean, I think they'll get a good crowd on Saturday because it's a Saturday game. You're going into New Year's. People are at home. People are going to probably use their tickets. It depends on how bad the weather is around kickoff and during the game. I think if it's a rain that arrives later on in the day, I think you'll have a better crowd. But if it's a rain that comes in the morning and goes through the game, I don't think you'll have as good a crowd. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that what I'm telling you is a no shit moment, but I think the crowds will be okay, man. And I think the reason I think that is Drake is a draw.
Yeah.
There was no draw there last year at the end of the season.
Right.
Plus that Jets game, the weather was miserable and it was snowing. It was brutal.
So I do think the Buffalo game, there's a shot that you have a Buffalo takeover, especially that if it is freezing cold.
Yes, all those Bills fans will pay hundreds of dollars to come watch Mitch Trubisky.
You know that fan base is nuts though. So
they're nuts. I mean, I think they're a little overdone, a little overhyped. But
agreed.
yes, they're nuts.
But no, I'm curious to see what it's like.
I think it's pretty idiotic to jump through tables for no reason, but
correct. I agree.
Whatever.
No, I think that's an interesting thing to watch just these last 2 weeks in terms of if you're the Crafts, what's the business like, these last 2 weeks? And as you said, how much of a draw is Drake?
Yeah, well, I think they'll do better than last year just because of Drake. I think people want to see Drake play, so I think that does matter. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show, presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Serenitas. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Adam Kirchin is on assignment tonight. We hope that he can join us next week. Just a reminder, if you're in the market to sell your current home and purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call at 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to help guide you through the purchasing process. If you are in the market and you need someone with experience to help you on the lending side, Herb Devine's your guy, 781-254-2846. Or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Ken checks back into the show. Again, thanks for checking in, Ken. What is both of you's take? No, I know what you're trying to say. What is both of yours take on Mike Vrabel being interested in coaching the Patriots? As far as we know, Mayo will be back in 2025. Yeah, it's not going to happen. In fact, I saw a report today that is linking him to the Las Vegas Raiders job because of the Brady connection. Who knows? I will say this, and I'm probably in the minority with this opinion. I don't see the affinity with Mike Vrabel. I don't see why. I get it because he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, and he was a staple of those first 3 Super Bowl teams. He was a key player on those teams. So I get the connection and the affinity. I guess I don't get the coaching affinity. I don't get why people love him so much as a coach. I mean, when you look at his time in Tennessee, yes, he had a winning record. Yes, he won a couple of playoff games. He had a couple of winning seasons. But if you listen to some people talk about Vrabel, you would have thought that Vrabel was Belichick in his prime. You would have thought that Vrabel should be in the same conversation as Chuck Noll and Bill Walsh. I mean, let's not be delusional here, okay? This is a tough situation. It really is. You can get the best coach money can buy in here right now, and it's going to take another year or two to get this thing to a place where this team is a playoff contender and eventually contending beyond that. So, look, I think the bottom line is you're not going to get Mike Vrabel. They're not firing Mayo. Vrabel's not going to be here next year. He's probably going to be somewhere else. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. He's not the second coming of Bill. He's not the second coming of Chuck Noll or Bill Parcells or Bill Walsh. Let's pump the brakes on Vrabel. He's a good coach, but even if you had an opening, I'm not sure he's the guy that brings you back to the promised land.
So it's funny, last year when you saw him in the booth, when we saw him in the Crafts box during the Hall of Fame, ceremony, I thought he was a walk to be the next guy. I thought that was hook, line, and sinker. I thought there was no way around
Well,
it.
Kraft did tell us that he's willing and Vrabel.
It's true. I forgot about that. What a dumb speech. But look, I wouldn't have.
More like, what a dumb line.
I don't
It's
hate the
stupid that I would say.
correct. I don't hate the idea, and I get what you're saying about the coaching, but he did go to an AFC Championship with Ryan Tannehill, so like that's where I come back on him. Now I know he had Derrick Henry, and the defense was phenomenal, and I get it. He's very. I don't know if he's overrated as a coach, but people are definitely overhyping him a little bit around here. I do think if there was ever going to be a move made, it would only be for him. Now, if you're the Crafts, you should have gone through the entire interview process last year.
Correct.
So you screwed yourself in that regard.
Yep.
So now, if you feel like he's
Which is my earlier point, Kevin, that they've boxed themselves in on this.
correct.
So if they were to fire Mayo, you're losing face big time here. I think it's a PR nightmare for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to retain him, which ultimately means they're going to lose out on Vrabel.
Correct. So that's the thing I'm curious about is if they feel like he's their next guy, do we have to jump and go get him right now? That's the only way I could see them making a move with Mayo. And like you said, I think he saved his job and kind of prevented that from happening last week. But if you wanted Vrabel, it should have happened last year. You should have gone through the full interview process for both head coach and GM. We didn't even talk about that. The fact they didn't do a real interview process, they screwed themselves there. Even if they were going to land on Mayo, you at least get ideas and sort of a general sense of how other people are thinking around the league. So I think Vrabel, your best shot with him was last year. I think the report about him being interested was floated out by him just to kind of get his name circulated back in those discussions. But no, I'm with you. I don't think he ends up here. I wouldn't hate it personally, but if you're the Crafts, it just adds to a terrible look if that happens.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I again, they're in a corner, and I think that if they were to move on from Mayo, I think it does make them look bad. So don't anticipate seeing Mike Vrabel. Ken checks back in with the support of the offense behind AVP. Does New England look outside the box for an OC? I don't think they're going to make a change.
No,
it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they did, though. I disagree with you on this. I think if there was a potential change coming, I think it would be more likely to happen on offense than defense. So I don't think that AVP is 100% safe. I think that the offense is going to have to play well on Saturday and next weekend in order for him to truly keep his job. Unfortunately, it's a part of the process with being a football coach, whether it be a head coach or a coordinator. Your job is constantly being evaluated. And I think in this case, AVP's is. Do I think that he's done a good job? At times. At times. I'll be the first one to tell you I like Alex a lot, but I can't say that I think he's done a good job on a week-to-week basis. I think he's had some good games where he's called a good game. He's gotten into a rhythm early. He's established things. He's called things off of things. And then there have been times where you could tell he's throwing gum against the wall and he hopes it sticks. I thought he called arguably his best game of the season on Sunday. There were a couple of calls, though. I mean, the swing screen inside the 5, just that call, and he defended it today, which blew me away. It was a terrible throw by Drake, but the call in that situation is bad. Yeah. I just think in that situation, for me, I've called that play probably 50 times in my career as an offensive coordinator. I would never call it there, man. You got to call that play 25-30 going out. It's a pretty safe call there because of what happened, the mechanics of the play. If it's a bad ball, if it goes behind the back and now it's a lateral and he doesn't recover it, a lot can go wrong there. And so I didn't understand the call there. And I also didn't understand, like I said, that he defended it today. But as far as I can tell, my guess is he's back next year. But like I just said, I think if there was one spot where they could make a change, offensive coordinator would be it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And just on the defense of that play today, when you say 3 things went wrong, and if they went well, it would have worked.
Right.
Probably not the best play.
Right. Drake, it was a bad throw by Drake, bad ball handling by Stevenson, and they didn't get the lineman out there. I mean, and again, this is why, and I said this to some of our fellow members of the media afterwards. I said, why do you guys ask so many X and O questions? they're not going to give you the answers you want. Stop wasting your time. You're better off focusing on players, and you're better off focusing on philosophy and maybe overall thought, but specific X and O questions. Van Pelt is not going to sit there and look you square in the face and say, you know what, guys, you're right. I shouldn't have called that. My bad. He's not going to do that. He's not.
No,
so, I mean, it amazes me when people, Buffalo plays cover 0 in the red zone, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever. Like, you don't think he knows that? He does all the prep work. You don't think he knows what that week's opponent plays coverage-wise in different areas of the field? I mean, it's just ridiculous to me. Nonetheless, I digress. Again, like I said, to just put a wrap on Ken's question, I think if they were to make a change, it could be there. Who could they bring in? I don't know. I don't see. I off the top of my head, it's too early to think about potential candidates. I'm sure people around here are like, "Oh, bring back Josh McDaniels." Ken checks back in again. When DeMarcus Covington be returning to New England as the DC in 2025, or will they get him more support as far as coaches? Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere. I think he'll be back. I don't. I know a lot of people will point to the performance of the defense even last year compared to this year, but I just don't see him making a change. Covington's been here for a while. Him and Mayo are tight. Mayo trusts him. What I could see happening on defense, though, is you could see them bringing a veteran coach, an overseer of the defense, kind of like Ben McAdoo is on offense. I think you could see someone like that, like a Steve Wilkes, a veteran coach that's been around. I felt they should have done that last offseason. I couldn't believe they didn't.
I think that he wanted to oversee the entire, football operation, frankly, like a Parcells did in Dallas. But I'm with you there. The only thing I could see is maybe a couple assistants leaving and joining Belichick at UNC on that side.
Yeah, I mean, his kid. I wouldn't be surprised. I think you bring up a good point, Kevin.
Yeah, so I think
can see his kid leaving, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe a Mike Pellegrino. Who knows?
Yeah, so I think you see some new bodies on the defensive side, but I think the coordinators are all pretty airtight still. Again, do you want to talk about next? You want to talk about next year? Sure, you can clean house after next year, but you got to give him at least 2.
No, I agree. All right, let's shift gears here now. Talk some college football. Of course, we got 2 of our FBS programs playing in bowl games on Saturday. Of course, as we talked about earlier, the Boston College Eagles are already in New York. They're going to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the Pinstripe Bowl. It used to be the New Era Pinstripe Bowl. It is now the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Yeah. And then you're going to have the Fenway Bowl, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, which is going to pit the UConn Huskies and their 8-4 record against the North Carolina Tar Heels, who will be coached, of course, by Bill Belichick after the bowl game. It is anticipated that Belichick will be in town on Saturday for that one. I got to cover the Fenway Bowl last year. It was a pretty good take. Stone, you're going to be in New York for the Pinstripe Bowl. I will be pulling a solo at the Patriots. Just some initial thoughts on what should be a pretty good game. Look, from a Boston College Bowl standpoint, and we talked about this at the end of the season, Pinstripe Bowl was the best destination. I mean, realistically speaking, I didn't think, and I've said this all along, I didn't think they were getting in with a 7-5 record. I thought that they would have probably wanted a team with a little bit of a better record. Now, this is not a knock on the Pinstripe Bowl, but I think it was a wee bit more prestigious maybe 3 or 4 years ago than it is now. It's lost a little bit of its luster as a bowl game. Nonetheless, BC is there. The expectation is that they will travel well. 3-hour ride, 3.5-hour ride from Chestnut Hill to the Bronx. It'll be quite the treat for some of these BC fans if they've never been to the Bronx. If you haven't been to the Bronx, by the way?
Yeah, I went to the old stadium 3 times.
Okay. So you're well aware of the Bronx culture. I was there this summer. I took in a Yankees game this past August. I love going down there. New York brings me back to when I was a kid growing up in Boston. It's still got that grittiness about it. You know, Boston had that grittiness about it growing up, so it still brings me back to when I was a kid. I love going to Yankees games and going to the Bronx and just taking it all in. It's just such a different experience, and Yankee fans are originals, that's for sure. Nonetheless, should be a pretty good game. Nebraska got off to a good start, faded down the stretch. I think these 2 teams are pretty evenly matched. Big game for Boston College because they've had a strong finish of the season in recruiting, but they really need this one. They need to go into spring ball with some momentum. 8 wins would be big for Bill O'Brien in his first year. This is a must-win for the Boston College football team.
Huge. 8 wins for the first time since 2009 is what's on the table. So it's massive. And you mentioned recruiting. This game's on national television. It's the second game of the day. UConn actually kicks off at 11 for some mind-blowing reason. But ABC, national television against the premier program, historic program in Nebraska. O'Brien's really sort of harped on that the last few times he's spoken, just what it means to have, this kind of matchup. If they were going against, I don't know, call it Coastal Carolina, it wouldn't feel the same. It wouldn't mean the same. Christmas week, they actually took a train down, the Acela train from Westwood on Tuesday as a program. They got down there for Christmas Eve. They had the holidays in New York, so that was kind of cool. They've sort of embraced the entire experience. A few players talked today after practice. They actually practiced at Robert Kraft Stadium or Robert Kraft Field at Columbia University. Look, guys are embracing it. And the interesting thing is, there's an eye.
By the way, not to cut you off, I thought it was interesting that North Carolina is practicing at BC.
Yeah.
And UConn is practicing at UMass.
Very.
That was interesting.
No, you're very. They're fully engaged and sort of, they're all in on the 8 wins for the first time since 2009. They know what it means. And again, that might not be much to the major programs, but for this team and for this staff in particular, to get here in February and go on and win 8 games, that'd be impressive as hell for them to do it. So I'm more looking at the older guys, like Joe Marinaro talked today, the special teams captain, walk-on guy, legitimately a Rudy story, but for Boston College. And he said, look, there's a balance between, wanting to win this game and going out the right way, but making sure the young guys get enough reps to be ready to go next year, which is also a huge part. You've harped on this for years now. These 15 practices are massive for this program. They've had mid-years show up in New York and start practicing with the team. Shaker Rising, a kid from Oklahoma who should be a senior in high school right now, has been in New York practicing with the team. Like, stuff like that is major when you're talking about 2025 and starting to build. So I think they have a good grasp on balancing trying to win this week, trying to get that 8th win, but also making sure, hey, we're locking in for 2025 right now. So I trust that staff is going to have that team ready to go. I expect a very competitive game. Like you said, the records are very even. Big Ten team you're facing, you don't really know a whole lot about, even though you had 2 weeks to face them. I haven't dug in, for a full preview yet. I'm going to do that tomorrow, just to kind of get more on Nebraska. But I think it's going to be a hell of a game. And again, if nothing else, national television, recruiting-wise, this is massive. Massive for so many different reasons, especially with the portal and all that stuff. So there's a ton riding on this game. And you can, talk crap. I do it plenty about all the bowls being saturated now and watered down, and there's too many. But again, these 15 practices in this 2 weeks, it's been massive for the future of the program, more so than the present.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think it's huge for them. I think, like I said, it's a golden opportunity to build some momentum heading into spring ball and next season. Of course, as you know, spring ball will be here before you know it.
Like tomorrow.
Yeah, and look, I think a lot of these practices take on added importance now in this era of the transfer portal, where you have so many guys that leave the program after the season that it gives you an opportunity to not only get those 15 practices in to prepare for a bowl game, but you're using those 15 practices to get the next guys in line their reps so that they can start for you in the bowl game. But it also gives you a head start to next year. And so I think for those guys, from a developmental standpoint, it gives you a head start to next year. So I think that these practices are extremely important. And again, I think this is a golden opportunity. It won't be an easy game to win. You got Dominic Raiola over there in Nebraska. He can make plays. He can make things happen. Matt Rule, proven coach. Dana Holgerson running the offense over there. So they're going to spread you out and they're going to throw the football. I think for Boston College, it's vitally important to establish that running game early, set a physical tone. Weather's going to be a factor. It's going to rain. Running the football is going to be important. You're going to be on grass. I think it is vitally important that Boston College establishes that running game early and starts hitting on some of those play action passes. And I think defensively, that front four, they've got to get pressure on Raiola. They got to get after him, and they've got to get the kind of pressure that they've gotten all year. That was one of the best pressure defenses in the country. They're going to need to get that pressure out of the gate, throw them off the spot, make them uncomfortable, and get them in the second and third and longs. I think it's going to be vitally important as well. And the third thing is, how is Kevin Stone going to handle the weather in an outdoor press box? I think that's going to be another one of the big keys of the game.
So it's funny. 45 is fine. That's nothing.
Yeah, but you don't like getting wet.
Well, we'll be under an overhang, so we'll be good there.
Okay. Now, are you bringing the waterproof notepad?
Yeah, honestly, yes. Just to use it. That thing's incredible. The other thing, too, they're going to have opt-outs. So Bill O'Brien wouldn't say who isn't and who isn't. As far as I know, Donovan Azarako is not going to play. I can't confirm that. I don't know that for sure. But if I'm him, I don't. Just based on, I think he could be a first rounder. And I know where you're going to go with this.
No.
And I don't think it's right. But
I think that's the problem for me. Is I wish there was a way these kids would manage it better with these coaches and say, look, I'll play, but maybe can I just play maybe in situations?
So I was going to say the best bet.
I know people will say, what does it matter? He can get hurt in playing a snap in those situations. I get it, but I'm just saying that this kid's meant so much to this program the last 4 years. I mean, why would you sit this out? This is your last game. You've had a great career at Boston College, one of the best defensive players to go there in the last 20 plus years. Why sit it out? Why not play?
No, and look, I could be completely wrong on that. It's just I have a feeling.
I don't think you are. I'd be surprised if he played.
No, I would too. There's a couple other guys too. You could think Ozzie Trapillo. Same thing. That's a kid who's going to get drafted. Drew Kendall just accepted his East West Shrine Bowl invite. I do think Drew will play just as a local guy.
He's a different, I can't see Pete telling his son to opt out. No way.
Right. So look,
they're Boston College through and through. He's going to play in his last game.
I agree. To your point, though, if nothing else, suit up, play a series or two. You know what I mean? Like at the very least,
we've seen that before where kids have done that.
Yeah. So again, I hope I'm wrong, but just based on who I've talked to and sort of things I've heard, I think you're going to see a handful of opt-outs. So to your point about the front four, you might see some guys that you're going to depend on next year needing to have an impact early on this weekend. So you're going to get maybe a bigger glimpse into 2025 than people expect.
Yeah, and just shifting gears here now to the Fenway Bowl and UConn. Of course, the Huskies are going to take on North Carolina. They've had their fair share of guys enter the portal. Darrell Robinson, running back, gone. He's at Auburn now. Skylar Bell entered the portal. They have added guys in the portal locally. They added Hayden Bozich out of Brown recently. UConn's done a tremendous job. They've been very active in the portal. They've added several players. But you're going to be down a couple guys that were key contributors this year, which is going to impact your offense. Yes, you bring back Cam Edwards. Yes, you bring back Victor Rosa. Joe Fagnano going to play in his last game. But you may end up having a couple of opt-outs here. We don't know. We can't confirm if Chase Lunt is going to opt out and a couple of the other guys. They did get Bryce Yates back. He decided to come back to UConn earlier this week, which I think is huge for the program. Bryce has been an integral part of that defense the last 2 years, and he's one of the leaders of the team. But this UConn offense may not be as explosive as it was at times this season. That could affect them against a North Carolina team like everybody else that's dealing with their own portal issues and their own opt-outs.
So it's funny. BC is a must-win game. For UConn, I'm torn because
I think this is a must-win game for them. Yeah. I think 9 wins for that program would be monumental.
So that's where I was going. Look, 9 wins would be incredible for them, given where they were just 2-3 years ago. So on that side, I do think it's must-win. But on the other, this is a team that does need to sort of plan ahead for next year again, too. So I guess what I'm saying is that they're both sort of in the same boat. But I also think UConn's going to have a phenomenal home field advantage at Fenway this week. North Carolina will travel, but I also think you might get the circus element of Belichick around that team. So honestly, if I'm UNC, I don't want Bill around, frankly, if I'm them. But I understand he probably has to be to to kind of do his job and get ready for next year. But I feel like UConn might be able to take advantage of the circus element coming into town. But look, same thing, weather applies, right? This UConn team needs to run the ball, run the 45 times if they have to, whatever it takes. We saw BC last year on that field. That field's going to get chewed up pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the best, field for football. So,
And once again, unfortunately, I don't think you're going to get a great crowd there.
I think
once again, the New England weather sabotages that game. I mean, look,
every year.
I don't think if it were two out of town teams, I don't think regardless of the weather you would get a great crowd anyway.
Yeah.
But with BC there last year, UConn there this year, the potential was there to get a pretty good crowd, and you're not going to get it because people are going to say, well, do I want to go sit in the rain at Fenway Park to watch them play? I mean, I think there's going to be some people that are just going to say, I'll watch it from home.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why, again, if you're them, run the ball 40 times, 45 times, keep North Carolina off the field, and really the same thing, just try to get out with a win. But again, I go back to, I don't want to call it must win. I know you think it is. 9 wins would be huge, but they've already made leaps and bounds this year. Like Jim Moore deserves to be in the discussion.
Selfishly, I want to see them win 9 games. I would love it. I'm a big supporter of all the programs in New England that we cover, all the D1 programs.
Yeah.
Selfishly, yes, I want them to win 9 games. I want it for Jim. I want it for the program. I want it for UConn. I love that program, and I want to see them win 9 games. I would say the same thing about UMass, and I want to see BC win 8 games. I know that BC has its detractors around here, a lot of BU folks who, quite frankly, if you're a BU person shitting on BC football, go screw yourself because you don't have a football program, so nobody cares what you think. But nonetheless, I digress. All that being said, yes, I want to see them win it. I think, and if you beat an ACC opponent, I think it adds a little bit more value to it. So I think it'd be good for the program.
Well, again, we talk about recruiting. What does that do for UConn recruiting?
Huge.
If you go beat Belichick, Bill Belichick's, well, technically Freddie Kitchens, UNC Tar Heels, but you're right, it's massive. But I don't think they need it as much as BC. I think is what I'm trying to say, just because of how many strides they took this year. Like just to be where they're at right now. Yes, you're still fighting to find a conference, and that's a completely different discussion. Which I think a win helps their case here this weekend as well. But in terms of recruiting, I think that's where this game is most valuable for UConn.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, look, yes, I agree. It's obviously very important for recruiting. But again, I think 9 wins sells the program better. And not only that, other thing you got to keep in mind here is, and I think it's important, this applies to BC as well, the NIL component of all this. Mm-hmm. The more games you win, the more attractive the program becomes, the more alumni and donors are willing to put into the program. And I think that that's another important part of it here is that, and UConn has a strong NIL initiative. Boston College is developing a strong NIL initiative. You win on Saturday. Both programs win on Saturday. I think that also benefits these initiatives. I think people are going to be more willing to put more money into these programs, which, again, I think is very important.
I agree. I totally agree. It's just, again, I go back to, yes, 9 wins would be huge. I just don't think they need it as much as BC could use those 8 wins.
I'm giving you reasons why they need it, and you keep coming back to how they don't need it.
It's fine.
Well, what do you want me to tell you? What else should I say to tell you why it's important?
I think we agree for the most part. It's massive for both teams this weekend.
Yeah. No, and look, again, I think it's great for the region that BC and UConn are playing in bowl games. I think it's important because it doesn't happen every year. And we do tend to take it for granted. And that's why I want to see UMass now with Joe Harris-Simiak at the helm. And, of course, them moving into the MAC. It'd be nice if Coach Harris-Simiak built that program to a point where they're contending to play in bowl games, even if you're 6-6. Look, I know a lot of people are critical of bowl games and they question the value of them. They still have value. They do. But it's program value.
Yes.
That's what I think people need to understand. They have value for the program. You and I have talked about this. You and I and Adam have talked about this. If UMass went 6-6 next year and got invited to a bowl, that fan base would lose their minds. Dude. They would be all over that. All over it. And they will travel and they will sell tickets. So don't tell me that those games have no value. They might not. Look, we could sit here and say that bowl games have no value, that's a bunch of bullshit. They have plenty of value. And you know why you know they have value? Because the ratings are always pretty good for bowl season and the money's there. The money is there. The advertising dollars are there. The sponsor dollars are there. Again, don't let a half-empty stadium fool you. That game is still generating revenue. And now, is it a boon for the schools? No. But is it still generating some money? Yes, because you got the TV money coming in. You've got the sponsorship money coming in. And as you've said on countless occasions, it matters in recruiting. It matters when you're selling the program. It's a lot better, and you know this. You're at BC all the time. We've been to UConn. It's a lot easier to sell your program when you have different bowl banners hanging up saying we went to this bowl and we won this bowl. UMass can't say that, but UConn and BC can. And it matters. It catches your eye and it matters to recruits.
I was just saying, you walk into UConn and BC, you see trophies. You walk into UMass, you see a bubble. Like, it's about it. Yeah. So you're right.
You're hoping to obviously change that now. We'll see.
I've completely flipped on that the last couple of years after covering these teams. And again, dealing with these head coaches, you see how much these practices in particular matter, again, for the future of the program, not necessarily the present.
Yep. And speaking of UMass, of course, Mike Bajakian expected to be named and officially named the offensive coordinator under Joe Harrisimiak, which I wrote about this about a week and a half ago. I think that's a tremendous hire for UMass. I got to cover Mike being the offensive coordinator of Boston College in 2019. They had one of the best rushing attacks in the country. They were a top 50 offense in the country. I think Mike's going to do a terrific job at UMass. If they get the right pieces in there, what you can expect, UMass fans, is you can expect an offense that's going to run the football. They're going to be physical. They're going to play with good pace. It's going to be a quarterback-friendly system because it's going to build off that running game with the play-action game, the drop-back game, the perimeter screen and RPO game. I think you're going to see a diverse offense that does a lot of different things. Mike Bajakian has been around for a long time. He's coached in the NFL as a quarterbacks coach. He's been a long-time coordinator at the college level at Tennessee, Northwestern, Cincinnati. He has been around Boston College, obviously, and he has coordinated some pretty good offenses. Again, I think you're getting somebody with a terrific resume, but you're also getting somebody who's recruited the area and he knows the area. I got to talk to Coach Bajakian a couple of years ago at the Milton Academy Showcase, and he's just a great dude. We talked about Armenian food in Watertown, him being an Armenian. So I'm pumped that Mike is here. I think he's going to do a good job with this offense, and if they recruit the right pieces, I think that they're going to have success on offense. So UMass football fans, you have that to look forward to, among other things, as Joe Harrisimiak continues to build the staff, and Minutemen have been very active in the portal as well. Before we go here, I do want to let you know that the Massachusetts High School Football Coaches Association announced their all-state team today. In case you missed this, your quarterbacks are Jake Attaway from Hudson, Osiris Lopez from Leominster, two great choices. Lopez, of course, is back next year for a senior season. Your running backs, Makai Dodd, best back in the state this year. Shane Eason from Methuen, he can also stake that claim. Justin Marks, all-time leading touchdown scorer in state history at the position. What can you say about him? An illustrious career at Fairhaven. Your wide receivers, Merrick Barlow from St. John's Prep, Kalen Chudzinski from St. Seb's, and Lawson Foley from Scituate. All three of those guys had terrific high school careers. Offensive line, Thomas Brown is going to Villanova from Chelmsford. Naheem Rador from Weymouth, Graham Roberts from St. John's Prep, Charlie Simeone from Needham, and Marky Walbridge from St. Seb's. On defense, you have Micah Amity from Xaverian, Logan Dennett from Wachusett, and Dominic Funk from Xaverian. Your linebackers, and I had the pleasure of coaching this young man, loved coaching him. Just a tremendous player and a tremendous kid, Aiden Astorino. I also had the good fortune of coaching his brother, Will, at KP. Great kids from a great family. Ryan Bannon, I've had the good fortune of coaching against Ryan. I know the Bannon family well. Tremendous player. Ryan's going to be going to Georgetown. Coach against his older brother as well. Great family, great players. Max Dresens from Wayland. Manny Mangata from Tewksbury. David Timpson from CM. Of course, Aiden Williams, who's a Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Massachusetts. What a great career for Aiden. Awesome career. And, of course, he's going to go off and play in college as well. And then you have AJ as a Bukalam from BBNN, Jared Bernabe from Linfield, Brady Chapman from Westboro, and my guy, Slingin' Sid Tildesley at safety from Shawsheen. Slingin' Sid getting some all-state love from Shawsheen. Great group of players there. Great year of high school football in Massachusetts this season.
Yeah, all deserving, all well deserving. I can't believe the season's quote unquote officially over, but pretty soon we'll be talking about 7-on-7s and all that stuff, and we'll be seeing and hearing a lot of those names again.
Yeah, and of course, stay tuned here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have our all-state teams for high school football, and we're also going to have our all Division I college team. So that's going to be coming out in the next 2 weeks. We kind of wait on that. I know a lot of people love to put that stuff out as soon as the season is over. Not us. We like to wait after the Patriots are done because we want to do our due diligence and we want to recognize everybody. We'll have our players of the year and coaches of the year in Massachusetts and Connecticut as well. We'll be getting those plaques out by the middle of January. So no rush on our part. We want to do it right. We want to make sure that we recognize everybody that deserves to be recognized. So look for those teams. And as always, subscribe. If you have a chance, $2.99 a month. Some of the best football coverage in New England. We've got a ton of stuff for you this offseason. Bunch of features, bunch of high school stuff, college stuff. We'll be on top of all the recruiting stuff. We haven't done anything yet with all the portal moves because we're waiting to get the final lists from schools so we can put out who has transferred where, and we can give you some in-depth breakdowns on that. And, of course, my favorite time of the year, we've got the NFL draft, which will be here before you know it. We're going to be full-blown into Patriots draft coverage starting January 6th. We're not going to waste any time. So make sure that you are subscribing to anyfootballjournal.com for our Patriots draft coverage as well. Final thoughts here, Stone, before we wrap it up.
Well, I do think draft time is going to be more draft night will be more fun this year because I think we get some trades. But no, stay with us this weekend. We'll be at all three games on Saturday. Of course, the Patriots got flex, but we're going to make it work. We'll have Ryan there on at Fenway for UConn. I'll, of course, be in New York, and John will be in Gillette. And stay with us. There, as John says, there is no offseason, and within, 2 months, we'll be doing pro days. So it never ends. But happy to do it, and we're not done yet with this season.
Yeah, like I always say, when it comes to football, we love this shit. And as one of my favorite coaches would say, John Gruden, I would do this shit for free. So there you go. And we practically do it for free anyway. All right.
Yeah,
all right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sirianidis. We will be back with you before the new year. So we're not going to wish you a new year, happy new year quite yet. We'll be back with you before then. Until then, have a happy and safe weekend. As always, peace.
See ya.